Edna Mode is the real MVP of The Incredibles. She's a legendary fashion designer, a brilliant scientist, and a mad genius in disguise, all while being hilarious, but who is she really? Well, I've got our answer. It makes so much sense, and I promise that afterwards you'll agree with me. Hello, I'm the Theorizer, and Edna is a little suspicious when it comes down to it. She doesn't have many scenes to go off of, but there's stuff between the lines. In the first movie, we see her at the wedding flashback, and in the present, Bob goes to her modern mansion to get a patch job on his supersuit. She immediately tries making him a whole new one with tracking capabilities and a better fit. She strongly advises against wearing capes, and explains how tons of supers died, all because of, let's face it, her designs. When Helen finds out about the patch job, Edna tries inviting her over and reveals that she's created matching suits for the entire Incredible family down in her mad science lab. Ultimately, this spurs them all to fight the fight together and stop Syndrome from killing more superheroes. She's also there for the Parr family in the sequel, where she studies Jack and learns of his many powers. She explains how super babies work, and then calculates dimensions and transcends material science to create technology capable of containing him. She's like Q from James Bond, the gadget maker for the spies. She knows a lot more. She's a futurist, but she's also fantastic, and frankly a legend. But we don't know much about her from what little we see. She's rich, intelligent, fashionable, and visionary, but seems to have closer ties to the supers than anyone can imagine. Who is she really? How does she play into the whole superhero relocation program that everyone's a part of? She's more important here than almost anyone, but how so? And clearly she's mastered more than just fashion. Her true passion is powers and understanding them. Just take a look at her secret laboratory. She describes the supers as gods, truly super models for her designs. How does she have all this technology? Well, I think she's been in charge of something massive. She's not just the fashion girl, the gadget girl. She's the head honcho, in some sense. You might see where I'm going with this. If you've been with me for a while, you'll know of my extremely lengthy history with The Incredibles. My first real theories on it were my Syndrome videos, where I tried figuring out whether or not Syndrome could actually be a superhero. Conclusion: yeah, in fact, his entire base was his parents and Gazerbeam's base before he learned the truth about them and offed them one by one, starting his descent into villainy, with Mirage possibly being a robot he created using his super intelligence. A year later, I also did cover the second movie and made a video discussing just how much Winston knew about his sister's plans before dropping the biggest bombshell of them all, solving the entire conspiracy of the government agency, Rick Dicker, who killed the Devers' parents, all of it, seamlessly. You see, all of this comes down to this pesky agency there behind it. This also did end up tying together with a few other Pixar theories I made, culminating in the best theory video I've ever posted, bar none, simply entitled The Baby Smitty Theory, but that's for later. You see, through all of these, I had been talking and revising my ideas and working on how things could tie into Edna without ever coming to a solid conclusion, but I understood this much. She knows a lot more than she lets on. For ages, I've endorsed the theory that she created Syndrome's suit, and knowingly did so with a cape, so he'd be doomed to die. And I also now believe that yes, she created the family suits to motivate them all into action, and gave Bob a tracker because she knew what was coming. Her smug, all-knowing face and attitude gives it away. She knows so much more about the agency and has a deep, deep connection with the government and supers as a whole. They always go to her for help. She's a mad scientist. She's connected to the agency, which Syndrome is a part of, all of course linking back to the Smitty stuff, but she's not evil. She's something much wilder. She has the technology, she has the fashion, she has the sass, but it comes from a place of love and regret for the flawed designs that have killed so many. I've realized that Edna's past becomes rather obvious once you consider a simple fact. The Incredibles takes place in a little bit of a heightened version of the the 1950s, a bit more technological, a bit more futuristic, and we know full well why from my older videos, but the point is that supers are all of a very distinct time period, the age of comics. The patriotic heroes that saved the day, the magical figures that break the mold and defeat the evils of the World War II. I am almost entirely certain that in real life, superhero comics were substantially respondent to the Great Depression, and more notably the war effort, as seen with Captain America and many others. And I believe this bleeds over into the entire point and mythos of The Incredibles, giving us every single answer. If you align it, it goes something like this. To try and defeat the Germans during World War II, the American government of The Incredibles started a program to heighten human physiology and defeat the enemy. Superheroes were made. Augmented humans as a direct advancement to the war effort in the 1940s alongside bombs, planes, submarines, and modern technology. The US government famously recruited German resistance members during this period, such as Albert Einstein, I believe, Operation Paperclip they called it. It's well known just how advanced the Germans sought to be, infamously scouring the earth looking for all sorts of weaponry to fund their grandiose plans for world domination. Their doctors and scientists were frighteningly unethical, of course, and ran human experiments out the wazoo. I only bring this up because all of this is the same thing. The National Supers Agency is the US government's attempt to assimilate scientists from the German, Japanese, Italian axis with their own test subjects to create truly advanced superhumans out of public volunteers. And this is all important today because in the interviews with Brad Bird, director of The Incredibles, he explains how difficult it was to cast Edna Mode. He was going for a very specific accent blend, so much so that he actually couldn't find anyone else to successfully voice Edna, so he quite amazingly did it himself, giving us the character we have today. What was this accent? What was he going for? Well, to create this perfect gadget gal, he explained that he drew directly from the two smallest countries with the two most slick and advanced technologies and designs. Ladies and gentlemen, Germany and Japan. This is explicitly displayed in every way by her design, and he chose, in the 1940s, to go for two specific countries that are technologically advanced out of the dozens to choose from. 2/3 of the Axis powers? People of the viewership, Edna Mode is a recruited World War II mad scientist. The fact that I can say this and have it make sense without even needing a colossal amount of evidence should tell you a lot. But in the event that you need a bunch, consult my baby Smitty theory, because dear God, this makes Edna central to everything, and her life story, if it clicks, would play out something like this. Edna Mode, a young woman of German and Japanese descent, is Germany's most valuable tool during their economic depression in the 1930s. Being at the highest levels of government and helping with their fashion and technology, she sees the signs. Things are headed for disaster. She explains when we first meet her that she often travels to Milan, Italy, working with their supermodels who only care for themselves. Her Axis ties just don't stop! Her heritage is Japanese. She knows what's going on in the Pacific. Living in Germany, she detects the first signs of incoming disaster and takes her intelligence and gets the hell out right before the country goes to shit. She flees to America and aids them with their poverty by providing technology to those in need. This genius woman would be the very first when it comes to BNL, that AI company that runs everything in the US government in later films. She is given tools and money to fund real progress, creating heroes in the times of poverty, and most importantly, to aid in the coming war. In 1937, she creates the first superheroes, and hypothetically, these would be the two to give birth to a child, Buddy Pine Syndrome himself. If my other theories are to be believed, he has super intelligence, rivaling the likes of Edna herself, but he's stunted by nature of being the very first born into it and has issues. Many more supers are now granted powers, courtesy of her knowledge of nuclear mutation, and later the monster genome from Beyond the Veil, if you know what I'm referring to. Now into the 1940s, Edna is viciously against her former home of Germany, and they are attempting to conquer the world. They are even using some of her old technology to do it as they seek out the supernatural and the remarkable. When they ally with her heritage of Japan and her associates of Italy, she has reached the breaking point and advises that they siphon over her associates in Operation Paperclip. In this heightened world of the Incredibles, Edna and her team would hypothetically be the ones using this knowledge of nuclear physics to create the atom bomb, a counter-agent to the fires of war and the evils of mass cremation. We see her lust and her drive even later during her demonstrations when she has miniature nukes. The Incredibles takes place in 1962, meaning the glory days take place in 1947, 2 years after they drop the nuclear bomb to end the Pacific War. Syndrome, the resultant fallout from Edna's experiments, begins to lose his cool, and as ever, Edna sees it coming. As more and more of her associates die by the capes and this killer in plain sight, Edna blends the two dilemmas and provides Syndrome with the instruments of his own destruction: artificial intelligence and a cape. Edna knows everything about the supers in these films. She explains how they grow, how they gain and lose powers, how they are as babies. She is the one. She is the mother of supers. That is her role. That is who she is. She knows everything. Mother of BNL spiraling out of control when she leaves her agency to the world powers. And ironically, this would make BNL and Disney the Germans' conquest. Founder of the supers, the Mad Doctor herself. It's fantastic. This flies directly into my baby Smitty theory again, which of course needs a follow-up and is gonna have one now. And recently I've also seen some posts from people who have now also seen the German-Japanese connection and immediately think she's evil, but no, dear people, she's the hero we all deserve. I'll cover this more in my next Pixar theory, but for now, make sure to subscribe and join my Patreon for early uploads and shoutouts in Discord, which is where I spend a great deal of my time. Honestly, click the like button. I want 1 million.
And I get what I want.
Until next time, I'm the Theorizer. Only question now is, who is this cape wearer Galbaki? As ever, the extra special thanks to Plasmite.